Balance of Power, more commonly known by its renamed title Hidden Tiger, is a 1996 martial arts thriller directed by Rick Bennett and written by Philip M. Good, Otto Pozzo and Robert Tubbs. This is Bennett's first and only time in the director's chair for a feature, with his only other directing credit being a TV movie called Power Pack. He's probably best known, however, for his acting credits, with him having quite a substantial history of voice acting for the Marvel vs. Capcom games, and in particular for the character of Juggernaut in the 90s X-Men animated series. As for writers, well, between them, Good, Pozzo and Tubbs have about 3 credits, and 2 of those are for short direct-to-video projects, and one of them is this film. Pozzo is probably the most successful in this regard, as he helped to co-write another film starring this one's main hero, Billy Blanks, called Tough and Deadly. A film I will get to in time, don't you worry about that. Balance of Power stars Blanks as Nick, or Nico, they swap his name in and out depending on the character speaking. A martial arts teacher at a downtown dojo, an all-round moral high-grounder. Seriously, in this film Nick can barely do any wrong, and is always on hand to shell out thought-provoking advice or motivational kicks up the backside. We're introduced to Nick organising a mass litter picking with his students on a nearby waste site, and within 15 minutes of the film's runtime, he's already lecturing 2 students about staying on the straight and narrow and avoiding getting involved in drugs and crime, and punishing them for daring to have a different opinion to his. It's at this point that the Mafia make an appearance, trying to coax Nick into paying protection money so that his dojo doesn't fall victim to any unwanted attention. Nick refuses to bend to them, and the Mafia begin to plan how they can mess with Nick and his team. It's then revealed that this particular Mafia is also running a deathmatch competition, where selected fighters can take on the Mafia's strongest champion. And when the Mafia accidentally attack one of Nick's students when attempting a drive-by on his dojo, Nick decides that the only way to get vengeance is to team up with an old karate master and his granddaughter, and to take on the Mafia's champion himself, both to save his dojo and to protect his students from further incident. Thus begins an intense training period and several deadly dangers as Blanks and his team work together to try and take down the Mafia. Right off the bat, it needs to be said that while I'm pretty sure this isn't a TV movie, it has all the hallmarks of being one. It's cinematic, but the budget just doesn't seem to be there to give it that full polish it really needs. And there are various points where it fades down to black and then fades back up, implying that this was edited with ad breaks in mind. It just doesn't look or feel like someone would go to the cinema to watch this. And yet I can't find any information that would conclusively show that this film was in fact made for TV. So if you do happen to know definitively if this was made for TV or not, please do leave a comment, because I'd love to know. The acting throughout this is very TV movie-y as well, with Blanks giving a bit of a mixed performance. Some of his lines land and are very badass, but there are quite a few moments where he either stumbles through the script or it looks like he's just reading his lines off screen, which can be a bit off-putting. One of the key drug dealers in this as well has a mock English accent, which has to be in the running for one of the worst attempts at an accent that I've ever seen. It's so bad that it infrequently breaks into either his native accent or some strange stab at Australian. Everyone else for the most part's pretty fine, particularly the head of the Mafia, and Matsumoto, the old man who takes Blanks in. They both give fantastic performances, but it's a bit too few and far between for me. I'd say it gets a pass, but barely. The direction's pretty decent throughout, and all the cast seem very animated and active in the scenes they're in. It's nice to see a film like this really have that animate cast, because it's a factor that can make or break these kind of movies. If anything, the only thing I could say from a directional standpoint is that there's maybe a little bit too much time enjoying the scenery and surroundings rather than getting on with things. In particular, the opening sequence is a flyby of the skyline, which went on considerably longer than it needed to, and it didn't really add anything to proceedings, other than making me wish the film would just get going. I realise that's more of an editorial decision than a directional one, but that was what was planned to open the movie, and it really drags. The cinematography is really solid as well, with a nice range of well-composed shots and some decent mixtures of shot types to really help sell the urban grittiness of wherever this film is actually set. Though I do believe a few scenes in this film were shot with coverage in mind. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing here though. It really allows for a greater chance to try and get the best out of the scripts. Normally I would say that the opposite was the case, that going out and shooting with specific shots in mind and then getting coverage as an afterthought would be the right way to do it, because it allows for a stronger vision. But here it works about as well as it can do. I'd normally also complain about the lack of diversity or experimentation in the shot compositions. But again, we're not shooting a masterpiece here. This is an 88-minute long kung fu movie that's just trying to tell its script and not look god-awful in doing so. And I think for that, it does okay. It's quite a bit better than some of the tat I've spoken about on here. Though there are a couple of moments, particularly the training montages, that are lifted quite literally wholesale from Rocky 3 and 4. Then again, if you're going to steal from the best, I'd say. Of course, with any martial arts film, the absolute make or break is the choreography of the fight scenes. And here they're fairly creative. In particular, there's a fight scene in the first 5 to 10 minutes that was a lot of fun to watch and ended with a particularly gruesome broken leg effect. Most of the fight scenes are grand and very much over the top. The biggest problem these scenes have fall to a mixture of poor camera placement and editing. You see, masking a fake punch or kick is crucial to making the scenes here look believable. And here the connection distance is ridiculously far. You can tell that not only are they not coming anywhere near hitting each other, they're barely even in the same airspace as each other. Now this wouldn't be a problem with a competent editor on board. They'd be able to mask the punches quite believably, or alternatively use cutaways effectively so that you'd never need know that a single punch landed at all. But I have to say, the biggest issue that this film has is that whoever edited this film left it in a state that at best could be described as a bit loose, and at worst could be described as shocking. There's no timing, no rhythm apart from the broad cuts, which for the most part are fine, but anything in this film more complex than a scene change or a two-person conversation just seems to completely overwhelm the post-production crew on this one. Just looking at some of the fight scenes, you'll see some of the more glaring moments where it just doesn't match up with the audio, timing of the music, or pacing of the choreography. I mean, as an editor myself by trade, I can't necessarily blame the guy or girl responsible for cutting this together. It may be that they didn't have any cutaway material or enough footage to work with to begin with. And this is hardly the new Wes Anderson production. But the state that this has been left in is genuinely quite disheartening, and it really dampens down and in some cases fully kills any kind of hope this film had of being above average. As a small aside, I should also say that the soundtrack is best described as the best a man with a MIDI keyboard alone in his bedroom with a free weekend can produce. It's not offensive, but it's far from memorable. And again, it only adds to the overly cheap made-for-TV vibe. Balance of Power originally debuted in 1996 and was produced by Amcel Entertainment. It would fall into relative obscurity until 2002, when it was snapped up by Third Millennium Films, who decided to slightly recut the film and alter the title from Balance of Power to Hidden Tiger, in order to cash in on the then recently released Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. A tactic so shallow and money-grabbing that I'm kinda glad that Amazon only lists 3 reviews for this film. It implies that there are only 4 copies ever sold. Though one thing this release did leave me wondering was, why is it an 18? I mean, there's a somewhat gory shot of a broken leg at the beginning of the film, and towards the end of the film there's an implied impalement that shows an actor with blood in his mouth. But, let me put it this way. If Terminator 2 and Theatre of Blood can both get only a 15 certificate, then this surely must be less than an 18. Other than minor issues, the print's okay here. Maybe a little washed out, and I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's a VHS copy. But I wouldn't like to commit to that. It looks okay. It'd probably benefit from a bit of a remaster, but for something like this, I can't think of a company that would bother. Overall, as far as plots go, this is far from an original idea, and some of the dialogue falls flat on its face. However, it works with what it has reasonably well, and a good balance of decent cine and direction really saves this film from the abyss. However, it's heavily let down by poor editing and a somewhat mediocre soundtrack. This film's a real testimony to the understanding that not skimping on your post team is important. A good editor can make all the difference, and had this film been somewhat tighter, I think it could have been much more enjoyable. As it stands, there are much better and much worse films out there than this. This is a grey zone film, which in many ways makes it one of the most skippable. One for the meh pile, ultimately.